In this video, we are going to cover a series of vehicles that in some circles believe created the best single design of the Succession Wars. The ultimate duelist, the ultimate fighter, and a vicious destroyer of mechs, this machine would fittingly have the name of a creature which is so feared, even those predators larger than it, or those hunting in packs, avoid confronting it. My personal favorite mech of the era it was introduced. Today, we are going to talk about Norse Industries' Wolverine. A medium mech weighing in at 55 tons, the Wolverine is a design meant to marry speed and striking power, though it would also succeed in the category of defense as well. Originally designed by Norse Industries, now known as Victory Industries, the Wolverine was born conceptually not as a weapon for the Star League, but one for the Federated Sons, who wanted a new machine that was faster and wieldlier than its contemporaries during the Age of War. The resulting design would become a major success inside the Federated Sons, and its rights were purchased by Callan Industries, who would go on to produce several of the most noteworthy models during the Star League and Succession Wars. In fact, Callan would be the principal supplier of their variant of the Wolverine, the WVR-6R, to the Star League itself, and eventually most of the great houses, allowing the mech to become a widespread success, not just for the SLDF and the house's personal armies, but for Callan Industries' bottom line. Multiple companies would eventually procure licenses to build these machines on contract, and their variants, which cemented it as a design that would never vanish from the inner sphere. It would survive the wholesale destruction of the First and Second Succession Wars, and in fact, the First Succession War, ironically, through disruption of supply lines to Callan Industries' facilities on Thermopolis, would result in one of, if not the, most dangerous design of the Succession Wars. Without the ability to bring in the WVR-6R's primary autocannon, they would substitute it with a large laser and several alterations. This model, being built in the Free Worlds League, would become known as the Wolverine 6M, and alongside the 6R, would become a major component of the Free Worlds League's Mechs forces until the Hell Memory Core was discovered. The Wolverine 6M is not the most common variant of the Wolverine during the Succession Wars, but instead is an aberrant design built out of necessity during the First Succession War, as mentioned prior. Unlike our previous entries, where I talk about the most common variants first, I think this time it is fitting to discuss the 6M first, simply because of its incredibly well-earned reputation. The success of the Wolverine design would solidify it as one of the best mechs ever developed. In general, though, it's not all perfect, as the series would have quirks that are both useful and hinder it. When playing with the advanced rules, it has the command mech quality due to its communication systems on board, and it's placed at the head of multiple kinds of medium lances. It also has the extraordinarily dangerous extended torso twist ability, allowing it to look entirely behind itself with the direct fire of all of its weapons into its rear arc. In addition to this, it has improved communications, for the same reason it's a command mech. Infantry are less effective against it as well due to its protected actuators, giving it enhanced protection from swarm infantry attacks. It also benefits from being commonly made across the inner sphere, so that it has components that are abundant and easy to find for repairs, giving it the ubiquitous feature. Finally, unfortunately, it has the cramped cockpit rule as its only true downside, meaning that it suffers a 1 negative modifier to many of its piloting skill checks. But this is a small price to pay for a machine so dangerous, as you'll soon see. Powered by a Cortec 275 standard fusion engine, the 6M obtains a maximum speed of 86.4 km per hour, or 8 movement points in the tabletop game. In addition to this, it has a leaping capacity of 150 meters, or 5 movement points. The combination of these two abilities means that the Wolverine is very fast for its size, and has a great ability to either position itself or maneuver due to its jump jets. Inevitably, the 6M, despite often being seen as a jack-of-all-trades mech, recon mech, or even line mech, is a brawler or a fighter. Really, what these movement abilities give it is the ability to consistently vie for position against its victims as it erodes them, moving fast to prevent damage and twisting its torso to expose its opponents to dangerous fire even when at other times it might seem impossible. Once the Wolverine is on target at close proximity, it's very hard to lose, and should it get into trouble itself, its speed and jump jets just might let it get away. For cooling, the 6M has a reasonable 14 heatsinks. Heat management is key on the 6M, which is not meant to be alpha striking. When properly managed by the pilot, trying to not break into serious thresholds of heat buildup, it can be a dangerous foe for any machine. It's simply about knowing when it's permissible to fire which weapons when, and knowing when to accept heat burdens to score a crippling or killing blow. For its offensive capabilities, the Wolverine 6M can, at first glance, not be seen as being overly armed. This is often a misjudgment that heavier victims will play into. It's also noteworthy that it's more heavily armed than the base model counterpart, the WVR-6R. For its primary weapon, placed in its right arm, the 6M has a Magna Mark III large laser, which gives it some ability to threaten at medium ranges, out to approximately 450 meters, or 15 hexes. Backing this up at a shorter range of 9 hexes is its secondary weapon systems. Starting in the left torso, it possesses a Harpoon 6 SRM launcher, or SRM-6, with 1 ton of ammunition. This would be further enhanced by twin Magna Mark II medium lasers, with one mounted in the head and the other mounted in the left arm. These weapons collectively, if all fired, produce 18 points of heat, plus any penalties for the Wolverine moving or running. However, as soon as one medium laser is removed from this level of fire, or the SRM opts to not fired in order to save ammunition on an unlikely shot, it rapidly approaches heat neutrality. Knowing when to fire the weapons is essential for any Wolverine 6M pilot, and it can't be stressed enough. With a hard in-close ability to hit its targets, backed up by strong kicks, especially against slower targets, the Wolverine 6M can quickly overwhelm its opposition, even heavier mechs. In fact, this isn't even lost on those outside of the Battletech universe, where Catalyst Game Labs' latest battle value for this model, as of the making of this video, is 1291, which is comparable to a Thunderbolt, or is only 8 points away from having the same combat value as a Warhammer 6R. Finally, for protection, the Wolverine in this configuration is extraordinarily well armored, with a total of 10.5 tons, making it more armored than the DRG-1G Dragon, or the aforementioned Warhammer. This extra level of protection is needed on the 6M to help it cling to its targets, even those that outweigh it, as it weathers the fire and uses its fast movement and jump jets to reduce what its opponents can do, all while getting itself into position to land lethal damage on its enemy, all while it tires them out and prepares for the final assault. The WVR-6M is often considered the perfect balance of the three principles of armored combat during the Succession Wars. Anything it can't outgun, it can outflank. Anything it can't outrun, it can outfight. Best yet, it is armored enough and has enough heat sinks that it can get into the winning position it needs to overcome any foe, and to do so reliably. Even though I know this is anecdotal, I've never used a mech so brutal and effective as the Wolverine 6M during the Succession Wars, and I've seen its consistent, terrifying results, especially when used correctly, or better yet with a skilled pilot within it. Much like the Wolverine in real life, it's a fighting monster that will outlast even its biggest prey, or competition, all while using its agility and protection to buy time for its claws, in this case its weapons, to put the work in it needs to win. But the WVR-6M is only common in House Marik, and much like the other videos, we're not only going to cover one of these models. The WVR-6R is the most common version of the WVR series, first emerging in 2575, and being produced with the Star League and SLDF in mind. It would be a combatant in the reunification wars and would earn a solid reputation. It comes armed with a Whirlwind AC-5 autocannon in the right arm, along with 1 ton of ammunition. It would also have a single Magnum Mark II medium laser installed in the head, and contains the same Harpoon 6 SRM launcher as the 6M. For heat management, it has a total of 12 heat sinks, but it doesn't really require more than this, mostly running cool unless it's using its jump jets. Finally, it has 9.5 tons of armor, making it still very well protected. While less armed and armored than its more dangerous counterpart, the 6R is still a lethal combatant, able to distract at long range with its AC-5 before moving in to engage in close, often with kicks, its medium laser, and its SRM-6 to continue to rip into its opposition and attempting to off-balance opponents with its fast movement and reasonable armor. It is another classic of its age, and well loved for a reason. The Wolverine 7D would be the main Federated Sons variant to appear to readers in 3050, and would be produced during the opening stages of the clan invasion. It would take the common route of its time, installing an Inner Sphere Nissan 275 XL engine in order to save weight. In addition to this, it would use 10 tons of the new ferrofibrous armor, increasing its protection significantly. New technologies also allowed for the installation of a mask, giving it temporary boosts of speed when needed, though at a risk to itself should there be a malfunction. It would lean into new technology on its offensive front as well, upgrading its medium laser to a medium pulse laser, and installing the new Ultra AC-5 autocannon. Beyond this, it would have the original SRM complement, as well as a case to protect its ammunition, though the mech would still be disabled from ammunition hits due to its XL engine. The last design rendered for the Wolverine that I can tell is the WVR-11M, which is based on the prior design known as the 7M2. It has a total of 12 double heatsinks for cooling the machine's substantial heat burden. Like most other modern variants, it installs an XL engine, and would utilize a mask for brief bursts of speed. Interestingly, it would lean into using a heavy PPC as its main weapon, which does have a minimum range, making it not quite the enclosed brawler that it once was. Retaining the SRM system, the alternative weapon added to the design on top of all this is the medium X-Pulse laser. Though capable, this variant does indeed seem undergunned for the battlefields of the late Dark Age and Ill-Clan era. The Wolverine's variants come in a wide variety of other designs as well, including versions made for the short-lived Republic of the Sphere. The clans themselves would have a series of these mechs too, though renaming them to the Conjurer, as to not make reference to the clan that cannot be mentioned. The Wolverine's early era is where it seems strongest. In this time, it could use its armor, speed, and firepower in tandem to get maximum results, and reduce and hinder damage to itself, all while staying fast enough to hunt lights, but was powerful enough to threaten heavies, or even assaults, while piloted correctly. As time passed, though, there would be worthy contenders such as the 7K, the 7M2, the 9R, the 10R, and others, it still doesn't exercise the supremacy it once could on the battlefield, though it is still an intimidating warrior to anyone who wishes to think that this old mustelid no longer has teeth. Of the 3 55-ton mechs from the original TRO 3025, I think this is the standout. The one to break the mold, especially with the terrifying 6M variant that would emerge from the Free Worlds League. Even now, as war once again ravages the Inner Sphere, you will still find Wolverines, perhaps just as prolific in their numbers as before, spread across these new conflict zones, doing what they were made to do. Winning. Thank you for joining me here today. If you enjoyed this content, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. There is also a YouTube member program that supports this channel, and I want to thank all of the members who do so very much. With that, I will catch all of you in the comments section below.